Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, in a dense forest filled with the whispering of leaves and the songs of birds, there lived 3 bears. There was a papa bear, a mama bear, and a little baby bear. They lived in a cozy cottage and were a happy, albeit somewhat unusual family. Each bear had their own everything, their own bed, their own chair, and even their own bowl for porridge. One morning, after Mama Bear made a delicious batch of porridge, the family decided to take a walk in the forest while their breakfast cooled. No sooner had they ambled into the woods than a curious young girl named Goldilocks stumbled upon their home. With her golden curls shimmering in the sunlight, Goldilocks was drawn to the cottage by the smell of the cooling porridge. Finding the door unlocked, Goldilocks ventured inside. The aroma of the porridge was too tempting, and she decided to give it a try. First, she tasted the porridge from Papa Bear's big bowl, but it was too hot. Then, she tried Mama Bear's medium-sized bowl, but it was too cold. Finally, Goldilocks tried the porridge from Baby Bear's small bowl, and it was just right. So, she ate it all up. After her meal, Goldilocks felt a bit tired and decided to rest. She saw the 3 chairs by the fireplace. First, she sat in Papa Bear's large chair, but it was too hard. Then, she tried Mama Bear's chair, but it was too soft. Finally, she sat in Baby Bear's small chair, and it was just right. Unfortunately, the chair was not strong enough to support her, and it broke into pieces. Feeling even more tired now, Goldilocks went upstairs to the bedroom. There, she saw 3 beds. She lay down in Papa Bear's big bed, but it was too high at the head. Then, she lay in Mama Bear's bed, but it was too high at the foot. Finally, Goldilocks lay down in Baby Bear's bed, and it was just right. Before she knew it, she had fallen fast asleep. Meanwhile, the 3 bears returned home from their walk in the forest to find their porridge eaten and their chairs tampered with. But the biggest surprise was upstairs in the bedroom. As they entered, Papa Bear boomed, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear exclaimed, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, too." And Baby Bear cried out, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." At the sound of their voices, Goldilocks woke up. Startled to see the 3 bears staring at her, she leapt out of bed, rushed down the stairs, and didn't stop running until she was far away from the bears' cottage. She never returned to the forest again. The 3 bears never saw Goldilocks again but remained cautious, always locking their door when they went out for walks. And as for Goldilocks, she learned to respect the privacy and property of others, a lesson she would remember for the rest of her life. And so, the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears teaches us about curiosity, the consequences of our actions, and the importance of respecting others' belongings. The end.
The Lion King's Heart, a tale of bravery and betrayal. In the sprawling savannas of Africa, beneath the vast expanse of the sky, there ruled a lion named Azibo, whose mane shone like the sun itself. Azibo was not just any king. He was a leader beloved by all creatures for his wisdom and fairness. Under his rule, the kingdom flourished and peace reigned over the lands. But not all were pleased with Azibo's reign. His brother, Kazi, harboured a dark jealousy that grew with each passing day. Kazi craved the throne for himself and plotted in the shadows to overthrow Azibo. One fateful night, under the cover of a thunderous storm, Kazi's opportunity arose. He tricked Azibo into following him to a secluded part of the savannah, where he had arranged a deadly ambush. However, as fate would have it, Azibo's son, Jelani, overheard Kazi's whisperings and followed them stealthily. As Azibo reached the ambush spot, Kazi's followers leapt from the shadows. But before they could strike, Jelani burst forth, a mighty roar escaping his lips, warning his father of the danger. A fierce battle ensued under the stormy sky, lightning illuminating the savannah as the true king fought for his life and his kingdom. Despite their best efforts, Azebo and Jelani were overwhelmed. In a desperate move, Azebo instructed Jelani to flee, ensuring that the line of true kings would survive. With a heavy heart, Jelani escaped into the dark night, leaving his father to an unknown fate. Years passed, and Jelani grew into a strong and wise lion under the tutelage of a wise old elephant named Seifu, who taught him the ways of the savannah and the importance of leadership. All the while, Kazi's rule brought despair and decline to the kingdom. The land dried, the rivers slowed, and the animals suffered greatly under his tyranny. Realizing that it was time to reclaim his rightful place, Jelani, now a majestic lion with a mane as luminous as his father's, returned to the kingdom. He gathered loyal followers, old friends of Azebo who had been oppressed under Kazi's rule, and together they crafted a plan to restore the kingdom to its former glory. The battle for the kingdom was epic. Jelani faced Kazi at the very spot where his father had been betrayed. As they clashed, the savannah stood still, the other animals watching as day turned into night. Finally, with a powerful swipe of his paw, Jelani defeated Kazi, who fled into exile, never to threaten the kingdom again. With Jelani as the new king, the kingdom experienced a rebirth. Rivers flowed freely once more, the grasslands turned lush and green, and the animals thrived. King Jelani ruled with the same wisdom and fairness his father had shown, often telling the tale of Azebo's bravery and the lessons learned during his time away. The story of the Lion King's heart echoes through the savannah, a tale of bravery, betrayal, and the triumphant return of a true king. It serves as a reminder that true leadership comes from the heart, and that even in the darkest times, hope can guide us home. Milo's Moonlit Magic, a whimsical nighttime adventure. Once upon a time, in a cosy little village nestled between rolling green hills and a sparkling river, there lived a curious little fox named Milo. Milo had bright orange fur and a bushy tail with a white tip that flicked back and forth when he was excited. He was known throughout the village for his playful nature and insatiable curiosity. One clear night, when the moon was full and bright, casting silvery shadows on the ground, Milo couldn't sleep. He peered out of his burrow and saw the moonlight dancing on the leaves of the trees. "I wonder what the world looks like under the light of the full moon," he thought. With a twitch of his tail, Milo decided it was the perfect night for an adventure. He stepped out of his burrow, the cool grass tickling his paws. As he wandered through the village, he saw familiar places bathed in a different light. Everything looked mysterious and magical. Milo trotted down the path that led to the old oak tree, the oldest and wisest tree in the village. Under the moonlight, the oak seemed grander. Its leaves whispered secrets of ancient times. Milo listened and felt a deep connection to the world around him. As he ventured further, he spotted the river. It shimmered like a ribbon of silver, and Milo couldn't resist a quick drink. As he approached, he saw his reflection and paused. The moonlight made his orange fur glow, and he felt as if he was part of the moon's magic. Just then, a gentle voice called out, "Beautiful night, isn't it?" Startled, Milo turned to see a wise old turtle named Timothy. Timothy was known for his slow but thoughtful nature. He smiled at Milo with a knowing look. "Yes, it's amazing," Milo replied. "Everything looks so different, so magical." Timothy nodded. "The moonlight doesn't change the world, Milo. It reveals the beauty that we often overlook during the day. It shows us that there's always another way to see things, another perspective." Milo thought about Timothy's words as they sat by the river, watching the water flow gently. The old turtle shared stories of the many moonlit nights he had seen, and Milo listened eagerly, his eyes wide with wonder. Feeling inspired, Milo decided to explore the meadow, where the night-blooming flowers opened under the moon's gaze. He marvelled at their colours, different from the day yet equally beautiful. He realised that each flower waited patiently for night to show its true colours. As the night deepened, Milo ventured into the forest. The shadows looked deeper and the sounds were more mysterious. He felt a thrill of excitement mixed with a little fear, but he remembered Timothy's words and looked at the forest with new eyes, seeing the beauty in the shadows and the mystery in the unknown. Finally, tired but happy, Milo made his way back to his burrow. The first hints of dawn painted the sky with strokes of pink and orange. As he curled up in his cozy bed, he thought about his night's adventure. Milo had learned something very special that night, that the world is full of wonders, visible from different perspectives. Whether by the light of the sun or the glow of the moon, there's always something beautiful to discover. And so, with a heart full of new dreams and a mind full of new stories to tell, Milo drifted off to sleep, eagerly waiting for another adventure under the sun or moon, another day. The end.
Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a wealthy merchant who had 3 daughters. The youngest, named Beauty, was kind, gentle, and the most beloved by her father. One day, the merchant lost all his fortune in a tempest at sea, and the family was forced to live in a modest cottage in the countryside. Years later, the merchant heard that one of his ships had survived and was docked in a distant city. Filled with hope, he journeyed to the city but discovered that his cargo had been claimed by creditors. Disheartened, he began his return home. On his way, he lost his path in a deep forest and stumbled upon a magnificent castle. He entered, finding it mysteriously deserted, yet well stocked with food and drink. After refreshing himself, he remembered Beauty's request for a single rose, the only thing she wanted from his journey. As he picked a rose from the garden, a terrible beast appeared and accused him of theft. The beast agreed to spare the merchant's life on one condition: he must send one of his daughters to live in the castle. Reluctantly, the merchant agreed, and when he told his daughters what had happened, Beauty volunteered to go, feeling responsible for her father's predicament. Upon arriving at the castle, Beauty was frightened but soon discovered that the beast was kind and gentle. He treated her with great care, and they became friends. Each night, the beast asked Beauty to marry him, but she refused, as she was still intimidated by his appearance. After some months, Beauty grew homesick and begged the beast to let her visit her family. The beast agreed, giving her a magic mirror to see him and a ring that would bring her back when turned 3 times on her finger. He made her promise to return in a week, warning that his life depended on it. At home, Beauty's happiness to see her family was overshadowed by their insistence that she stay longer. Caught up in the joy of being with them, she broke her promise to the beast. One night, she looked in the mirror and saw that the beast was dying from heartbreak. Frantically, she turned the ring thrice and found herself back at the castle. Beauty rushed to the beast, who was near death, and wept over him, declaring her love. As her tears fell on him, a magical transformation occurred. The beast was revealed to be a handsome prince, cursed by a witch because he had refused her shelter in his castle due to her appearance. Only true love, despite his monstrous form, could break the spell. Beauty and the prince were married, and they lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and justice, always remembering the lessons they had learned about love and humility. The end.
Lenny's Great Adventure: The Tale of the Whispering Mountains. Once upon a time, in a lush, green forest full of chirping birds, rustling leaves, and a clear, bubbling stream, there lived a small, curious rabbit named Lenny. Lenny had soft, fluffy fur and the biggest, brightest eyes you've ever seen. He loved to explore every nook and cranny of the forest, always in search of new adventures. One sunny morning, Lenny stumbled upon a hidden path he had never seen before. Filled with excitement and a hint of nervousness, he decided to see where it led. As he hopped along, the trees seemed to grow taller, and the air became filled with the scent of unknown flowers. Finally, the path led him to a clearing where an old, wise oak tree stood. Under the oak tree, there was a gathering of animals Lenny had never met before. There was a gentle deer with eyes full of wisdom, a cheerful squirrel bustling with energy, and a kind old turtle who seemed as ancient as the forest itself. They were discussing a problem: the stream that provided water to the entire forest was starting to dry up, and they didn't know why. Lenny, with his insatiable curiosity and brave heart, volunteered to help. The animals, grateful for his courage, shared that the source of the stream lay beyond the Whispering Mountains, a place none of them had ventured to before. Determined to save his home, Lenny set off on the most significant adventure of his life. His journey was not easy. He had to cross meadows where he had to hide from eagles, navigate through thickets that seemed to grab at him with thorny fingers, and climb rocky paths where one wrong step could mean a nasty fall. But Lenny's spirit was indomitable. Along the way, he made friends too: a chipper bluebird who sang songs to lift his spirits, and a friendly fox who shared valuable forest wisdom and berries for strength. Finally, after what seemed like countless days and nights, Lenny reached the Whispering Mountains. There he discovered the problem: a large pile of rocks had fallen and blocked the stream's source during a storm. With the help of his new friends and a lot of hard work, they managed to remove the rocks, and the water started flowing again. Lenny returned to the clearing under the old oak tree as a hero. The forest celebrated his bravery with a grand feast, and the story of his adventure was told and retold for generations. But for Lenny, the greatest reward was seeing the forest thrive again, knowing he had played a part in saving it. And so the forest remained a happy, bustling place, all thanks to a small rabbit's courage and the friendship and teamwork of its inhabitants. Lenny continued to explore and seek new adventures, but he always remembered the journey to the Whispering Mountains as his greatest adventure of all. And they all lived happily ever after. The end.
Remy and the Giggleberries. Once upon a time, in a colorful world where the mountains could sing and the trees could dance, there was a little village known as Harmonia. It was the happiest place you could imagine, and right in the heart of it lived a small, cheerful rabbit named Remy. Remy was not like the other rabbits. He had one floppy ear that never stood up straight, but that never bothered him. He was loved by everyone for his kindness and his joyful heart that seemed to make the whole village a brighter place. Each day, Remy would hop through the village, sharing smiles and laughter with his friends. His best friends were Elsie, the bluebird who sang melodies sweeter than honey, and Timmy, the turtle who moved so slowly that flowers would bloom around him as he passed by. One sunny morning, as the mountains hummed a gentle tune, Remy learned of a problem. The Giggleberries, the source of the village's happiness, were disappearing. Without the Giggleberries, the village would slowly lose its laughter and joy. Determined to help, Remy, with Elsie perched on his floppy ear and Timmy by his side, set out on an adventure to find the Giggleberries. They crossed rivers that giggled, fields that tickled their feet, and forests where the trees swayed to the rhythm of Elsie's singing. Finally, they came upon a dark cave where the Giggleberries were supposed to grow. But inside, they found a lonely, gloomy dragon named Grumples. Grumples had been hoarding all the Giggleberries because he didn't know how to be happy and thought the berries would help him. Remy and his friends talked to Grumples and found out that he had never had friends or someone to share his days with. The little trio knew exactly what to do. They befriended Grumples, teaching him that happiness comes from friendship and sharing. Together, they returned to the village with the Giggleberries, spreading happiness once more. Grumples found that he could be joyful without the berries, simply by being with friends. And so, Harmonia became even happier. For now, they had a new friend, and everyone learned that the true joy in life comes from sharing it with others. And from that day on, there was always enough laughter, music, and dancing in Harmonia for everyone. And if you listen closely, you can still hear the mountains humming the tale of Remy the rabbit and his floppy ear, Elsie the bluebird, Timmy the turtle, and their dear friend, Grumples the dragon. And they all lived happily ever after. The end.
Pinocchio. Once upon a time, in a cozy little village, lived a kind old woodcarver named Geppetto. Geppetto was very lonely, so one day he decided to carve a puppet from a magical piece of wood.
He named the puppet Pinocchio and wished with all his heart for him to become a real boy. That night, while the stars twinkled brightly, a blue fairy heard Geppetto's wish and brought Pinocchio to life. Pinocchio was thrilled to move and speak, but the blue fairy explained that to become a real boy, he must prove himself brave, truthful, and selfless. Pinocchio promised to be good and set off to explore the world, his wooden feet clattering excitedly on the cobblestone streets. But oh, the world was full of temptations and tricks. Pinocchio found it hard to always be truthful, and whenever he told a lie, his wooden nose grew longer and longer. He met a cunning fox and cat who tricked him, a fierce puppet master named Stromboli who wanted to keep him forever, and even a strange coachman who took him to a land where naughty boys turned into donkeys. Through each adventure, Pinocchio found himself in trouble, but also learned important lessons. The blue fairy would come to help, reminding him of his promise to be good. Pinocchio wanted more than anything to be a real boy and to make Geppetto proud. The greatest test came when Pinocchio heard that Geppetto had been swallowed by a giant whale while searching for him at sea. Without a second thought, Pinocchio jumped into the ocean to save his dear father. Inside the dark belly of the whale, Pinocchio found Geppetto and, with a clever plan, helped them both escape. This brave and selfless act was the final step in Pinocchio's journey. The blue fairy saw how much Pinocchio had changed. He was brave, he was truthful, and he had shown great love for his father. With a sprinkle of fairy dust and a gentle smile, the blue fairy granted Geppetto's wish at last. Pinocchio became a real boy, his wooden frame transformed into one of flesh and blood, his heart beating with joy. Geppetto and Pinocchio hugged each other tightly, tears of happiness in their eyes. They returned home, where they lived happily ever after, always remembering the adventures that taught Pinocchio the true meaning of courage, honesty, and love. And so, dear children, remember that being brave, telling the truth, and thinking of others is the real magic that makes us all truly alive. Good night, sleep tight, and let your dreams be filled with the wonderful adventures of Pinocchio and his journey to becoming a real boy. The End. The Adventures of Little Luna, a Bedtime Tale. Once upon a time, in a small town nestled between rolling hills, there lived a little girl named Luna. Every night, just before bed, Luna would cuddle up with her favorite teddy bear, Mr. Snuggles, and listen to stories under the gentle glow of the moon. One night, as Luna drifted off to sleep, she found herself in a magical forest where fireflies danced and butterflies sang. Riding on the back of a friendly owl named Hoot, Luna soared high above the treetops, feeling the cool breeze brush against her cheeks. Along the way, Luna and Hoot met a playful family of squirrels who offered them delicious acorn treats and shared stories of their woodland adventures. Their journey led them to a shimmering lake, where a graceful swan awaited them, ready to take them on a magical boat ride across the sparkling waters. Snuggled up under a cozy blanket, Luna and Hoot floated across the lake, gazing up at the twinkling stars reflected in the water. As the night began to fade and the first light of dawn peeked through the window, Luna and Hoot returned to her bedroom, where she cuddled up with Mr. Snuggles, ready to drift off to sleep once more. And so, with her heart full of magical memories, Luna drifted off into dreamland, knowing that even the smallest of adventurers can find wonder in the world around them. And as the stars twinkled in the sky and the moon smiled down from above, Luna slept soundly, knowing that her next adventure awaited her just beyond the horizon. The End.
The Adventures of Mimi the Mouse. In the cozy corner of a big old farmhouse lived a curious little mouse named Mimi. One sunny morning, Mimi decided to venture outside her usual nooks and crannies to explore the vast garden. As she scampered through the tall grass, her tiny paws felt something unusual. It was a shiny silver key, half buried in the soft earth, glistening under the sunlight. Mimi noticed that the key had an engraving of a flower on it. Wondering what it could unlock, she followed a trail of colorful petals that led to a small, hidden door in the garden wall, just the right size for her. With a heart full of curiosity, she used the key to unlock the door. While exploring this enchanting place, Mimi met a friendly blue butterfly named Bella. Bella fluttered around Mimi, her wings shimmering in the sunlight. She shared the secrets of the garden, teaching Mimi how to listen to the flowers singing and the trees whispering stories of old. Mimi was fascinated and felt like she had entered a fairy tale. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the magical garden, Bella guided Mimi back to the garden door. Mimi promised to return with more friends to share these magical experiences. With a heart full of joy and new stories to tell, Mimi scurried back to her home, her spirit alight with the promise of future adventures. The end.
The Boy Who Spoke for the Forest. Deep within a sun-dappled forest, a young boy named Kota skipped along a hidden path. Curiosity glimmered in his bright eyes as he carried a worn leather satchel. He stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal glow, where a miniature shrine adorned with flowers stood proudly. Whispering sounds filled the air, and strange, translucent creatures with leaves for hair, the Kodama forest spirits, flitted around. Hesitantly, Kota offered a small, carved wooden bird to the shrine, bowing respectfully. The Kodama gathered, buzzing softly. One elder Kodama with a wise face touched the bird, causing it to erupt in light. In its place, a magnificent blue jay with vibrant plumage stood chirping excitedly. Joy erupted on Kota's face as the blue jay, whom he named Blue, perched on his shoulder. Their friendship blossomed as they explored the fantastical forest. They flew through vibrant meadows, climbed ancient trees, and encountered playful creatures like a grumpy badger, flitting fireflies, and a wise owl. But their peace was shattered when a group of burly lumberjacks with axes and saws arrived, their intentions clear. Seeing them raise their axes to chop down a magnificent tree, Kota bravely stood in their way. He pleaded with them to understand the importance of the forest, his voice ringing out in the clearing. The Kodama, sensing his courage, emerged from the woods, their forms shimmering with an otherworldly light. With a gentle touch, a Kodama made the trees glow with intricate patterns. The scene transformed into a mesmerizing display of light and magic. The lumberjacks, witnessing the interconnectedness of nature, watched in awe. Their hardened expressions softened, replaced with respect. The lead lumberjack lowered his axe, acknowledging the importance of the forest. A new understanding bloomed. From then on, Kota and the lumberjacks worked hand in hand. The lumberjacks planted new saplings and cleared debris with care, while the forest creatures peeked out with newfound trust. The scene ended with a montage of a harmonious relationship between humans and nature, a future filled with hope and the promise of a balanced world. Ayo and the Serpent of the Spring. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the forests of Nigeria, there lived a woman who had the most unusual companion: a snake. This was no ordinary snake. It was as golden as the morning sun and could understand the language of humans. The woman had found the snake as a hatchling, orphaned and alone, and had cared for it as one of her own. As the years passed, the snake grew into a magnificent creature with scales that shimmered in the sunlight. The villagers, aware of this unusual partnership, both respected and feared the bond between the woman and the snake. They called her Ayo, the sister of the snake, and she was known far and wide for her wisdom and her unique companion. One dry season, a severe drought struck the land. The crops withered and died, the rivers shrank to mere trickles, and the people suffered greatly. The village elders, desperate to save their people, decided to consult Ayo and her snake, believing their unique connection to nature might provide a solution. Ayo spoke to her snakey, who listened attentively and then slithered away into the forest. For 3 days and nights, The snake travelled through the underbrush, over hills and across dry riverbeds. On the fourth day, it returned and led Io and a group of villagers to a hidden spring deep in the forest, which the drought had spared. The villagers were overjoyed and quickly built a canal to channel the water back to the village. The snake had saved them, and Io's status grew even greater. However, with admiration, envy also grew in the hearts of some. A young man, jealous of Io's influence and eager to prove himself, challenged the sanctity of the snake, calling it mere superstition and an obstacle to progress. He argued that relying on such old beliefs was holding the village back. The elders, unsettled by the young man's words, debated their next course of action. Io, calm and confident, offered a solution. She proposed a test. The snake would lead the young man to another source of water, proving its power and the strength of their bond. If it succeeded, the village would continue to respect their ancient ways. If not, Io would leave the village. Reluctantly, the young man agreed. He followed the snake through the forest for a whole day, under the scorching sun. Just as he was about to collapse from exhaustion, the snake stopped. With its tail, it tapped on the ground, and suddenly water sprouted forth from a spot previously parched. The young man was astounded and returned to the village with a changed heart, speaking of Io's wisdom and the snake's true power. The village rejoiced, and from then on, they revered not only nature but also the ancient bonds that connected them to it. Io and her snake continued to live in the village, and she taught the people the importance of living in harmony with all creatures. The tale of Io and her golden snake passed into legend, reminding generations of the balance between change and tradition and the wisdom that nature holds. The Mermaid's Son, a tale from the waves. Once upon a time, in a small coastal village in Africa, there was a young boy named Tamu, whose life was destined to be intertwined with the mysteries of the sea. Born during a raging storm, Tamu was swept away by the furious waves while still in his swaddling clothes. His parents mourned, believing their precious son lost to the merciless ocean. But Tamu was not lost. He was found by Amina, a mermaid queen, who was charmed by the innocence and beauty of the human child. She brought him to her underwater kingdom, a place of untold beauty, where coral castles glowed with the light of bioluminescent creatures and fish of every colour swam in harmony. Here, Tamu grew up under the gentle care of Amina and her merfolk, learning the secrets of the deep and the language of the sea. As Tamu grew into a young man, he exhibited qualities both human and magical. His voice could soothe the wildest storms, and his tears turned into pearls as pure as his heart. Despite the splendour of his aquatic realm, Tamu often sat on rocky outcrops, staring towards the shore, yearning for a connection with the land he came from. One day, while perched on his favourite rock, Tamu saw a group of villagers from his birthplace casting nets into the sea. Among them was a young girl, Essie, whose laughter was as clear as the ringing of bell glass. Curious and eager to learn more about his roots, Tamu began to visit the shore more often, watching and sometimes secretly helping the villagers with their catch. It wasn't long before Essie noticed the kind stranger who seemed to dance with the waves. Over time they grew close, sharing stories and dreams. Tamu, torn between his life under the sea and his growing love for Essie, confided in her about his true origins. The village, stunned by his tale, was initially wary of him. However, when a terrible storm threatened the village and Tamu calmed the tempest with his song, they embraced him as a miracle, a bridge between two worlds. Despite this acceptance, Tamu felt a profound duty to both his homes. Finally, Amina, seeing the conflict within Tamu, offered him a gift, a conch shell that could summon the creatures of the sea. With this, he could always be connected to the ocean and her kingdom. Tamu and Essie decided to build their lives on the coast, where the waves kissed the shore, living as guardians of the marine and land communities. Thus, Tamu, the mermaid's son, became a legend, a symbol of harmony and unity. He taught those on land to respect and protect the ocean, and he brought the wisdom of the sea to help those on earth. As for the village, they thrived under his guidance, forever a place where the land embraced the sea, and where a boy raised by mermaids bridged two worlds in eternal harmony. This story of Tamu and his two worlds serves as a reminder of the balance we must maintain with nature and the profound connections we share with all living beings, no matter their origin.
Timmy and the Whispering Woods. Timmy was a brave little boy who lived on the edge of a small town next to the Whispering Woods. The woods were famous for their tall, ancient trees that were said to talk to each other in hushed tones. One sunny morning, Timmy decided to explore these mystical woods to find out if the trees really could speak. As he walked deeper into the woods, Timmy started to hear faint whispers. It wasn't the wind, but the soft, gentle voices of the trees. They were sharing stories of the forest's ancient past and the secrets of nature. Timmy listened with awe, his eyes wide with wonder. Suddenly, Timmy heard a soft cry for help. Following the sound, he found a small squirrel caught in a thorn bush. Without hesitation, Timmy carefully freed the squirrel, who thanked him with a chirpy voice. The trees around whispered in approval and rustled their leaves in applause. The grateful squirrel then offered to show Timmy a hidden part of the forest where the oldest tree stood. This ancient tree was the heart of the forest and had its own magical abilities. It could make flowers bloom instantly and turn the sky different colors at sunset. As the sun began to set, the ancient tree glowed warmly, and the sky turned a magnificent purple. Timmy realized that the Whispering Woods were not just talking trees, but a magical realm where all creatures lived together in harmony. He promised to keep the forest's secrets and visit his new friends often. Timmy walked back home under the starlit sky, filled with new stories to tell. He knew he would return soon, for the Whispering Woods had captured his heart with its magic and mystery. The end.
The Lion Prince and the Great Adventure. Once upon a time, in the lush, sun-drenched savannas of Afrona, there lived a young lion cub named Leo. Leo was not just any cub, he was the prince of the Leo kingdom, destined to become the king one day. Leo had a golden mane that gleamed in the sunlight, even though he was just a little cub. Leo's father, King Lionel, ruled the kingdom with wisdom and kindness. He taught Leo that being a king wasn't just about showing strength, but also about understanding and compassion. One day, my son King Lionel would say, "You will see that the true power of a king lies in his heart." One day, while exploring the edges of the kingdom, Leo stumbled upon a distressed baby elephant stuck in the mud. The elephant, Ellie, was struggling to free herself. Leo knew he had to help. He remembered his father's lessons about compassion and mustered up all his courage. With a lot of effort and encouragement, Leo managed to pull Ellie out of the sticky mud. Grateful for Leo's help, Ellie promised to return the favor one day. The two became inseparable friends, exploring the savanna, learning from other animals, and growing up under the vast African skies. Years passed, and Leo grew into a strong, wise lion, just like his father. But one day, trouble came. A fierce drought struck Afrona, withering the land and drying up the water holes. The animals started to suffer, and the kingdom was in distress. It was Leo's time to step up and show his leadership. Remembering Ellie's promise, Leo sought her help. Together, they embarked on a great adventure across distant lands in search of the Great Blue Oasis, a legendary paradise with endless water and food. Their journey was filled with challenges. They encountered a mischievous monkey who gave them riddles to solve and a wise old tortoise who taught them the secrets of the rain dance. Finally, after many days, Leo and Ellie found the Great Blue Oasis. But there was a problem. The oasis was guarded by a giant, grumpy hippo who refused to share the water. Leo remembered his father's lessons and approached the hippo not with force, but with a kind heart. He invited the hippo to visit their kingdom and see how sharing could mean friendship and prosperity for all. Moved by Leo's words, the hippo agreed, and soon the waters of the Great Blue Oasis were flowing towards Afrona. The kingdom was saved, and the animals thrived once again. Leo became the king of Afrona, a king who ruled with courage and a big heart. He was not just respected but loved by all. And beside him stood Queen Ellie, the bravest elephant, who always remembered how a little lion cub once helped her out of the mud. And so, Leo and Ellie ruled together, ensuring that their kingdom was a place where every creature, big or small, felt the warmth of a kind and just king. The end.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and beautiful queen named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. But despite her beauty, the queen's heart was filled with sadness, for she longed for a child of her own. One winter's day, as the queen sat sewing by the window, she pricked her finger with the needle, and 3 drops of blood fell onto the freshly fallen snow. "Oh, how I wish for a daughter as fair as snow, with lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony," she whispered, her voice filled with longing. To the queen's delight, her wish was granted, and she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. The queen named her daughter Snow White, in honor of the winter's day she was born. But tragedy struck when the queen fell ill and passed away, leaving Snow White alone in the care of her father, the king. The king, heartbroken by the loss of his beloved wife, remarried a vain and wicked queen who cared only for her own beauty. The new queen's jealousy of Snow White's beauty grew with each passing day, until one day, she ordered her huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. But the huntsman couldn't bring himself to do it, and instead let Snow White go, warning her never to return to the kingdom. Lost and alone in the forest, Snow White stumbled upon a small cottage hidden among the trees. She knocked on the door, and when no one answered, she went inside and found 7 small beds, each with its own colorful quilt. To her surprise, Snow White discovered that the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked in the nearby mines. When the dwarfs returned home, they were startled to find Snow White asleep in their beds, but they welcomed her with open arms when they learned of her plight. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the wicked queen learned from her magic mirror that Snow White was still alive and more beautiful than ever. Consumed by jealousy, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set off to find Snow White and put an end to her once and for all. When the wicked queen arrived at the cottage, she offered Snow White a poisoned apple disguised as a gift of friendship. Snow White, unaware of the queen's true identity, took a bite of the apple and fell into a deep sleep. The dwarfs returned home to find Snow White lying motionless on the floor, the poisoned apple still clutched in her hand. They tried everything to wake her, but nothing worked. Heartbroken, they placed her in a glass coffin and mourned her loss. But fate had other plans in store for Snow White. One day, a prince from a neighboring kingdom stumbled upon the glass coffin in the forest and was captivated by Snow White's beauty. With a gentle kiss, he broke the spell, and Snow White awoke from her enchanted sleep. Snow White and the prince were married in a grand ceremony attended by all the inhabitants of the kingdom. The wicked queen, consumed by jealousy and rage, met her fate when she was banished from the kingdom forever. And so, Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and compassion, while the memory of their adventures lived on in the hearts of all who heard their tale. The end.